Hey guys, it's Clint, and this article just came out. I wanted to talk about it. Captain Marvel is the most powerful character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Marvel says. So this is just, a little bit of reflection, and it's kind of interesting, their perspective, and it makes me a little more worried than I was before about Captain Marvel. So I want to get into this. First, I just want to remind you very quickly that I am writing a comic book. This is the variant cover. It's colored here. It's been done by Matthew Weldon. He did the line art, and then the colors are done by Derek Dow. So it looks really great. If you're interested in that, there's a link in the description below to join the mailing list. All right, Captain Marvel is the most powerful character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is interesting because anecdotally, so I had a friend meet Stan Lee at Comic-Con, and he told me that he specifically asked Stan Lee who is the most powerful superhero. So this wouldn't be character, just superhero. And Stan Lee told him Thor. At the same time, that same question a little while back, this was in 2014, somebody asked him on Twitter, and he said probably Galactus. So the question's a little bit different: most powerful being or most powerful superhero. That's not one and the same thing. Regardless, the answer for the cinematic universe is apparently Captain Marvel. So why does this matter? Well, I think it matters in that, just for storytelling reasons, why wasn't Captain Marvel introduced much earlier on? If everything is hanging upon Captain Marvel to save the day, why did we know nothing about Captain Marvel? It's really strange for, there's been all this years of character development through some really great films. And you care about the characters. They work together. You understand their weaknesses and their strengths. And what you wanted to see was somebody rise to the challenge and overcome some of their weaknesses, go be above and beyond in order to defeat Thanos. Now, that may be what Captain Marvel is doing, but the problem is we haven't known about Captain Marvel. So we're getting a movie that's, it happened in apparently the 90s. This is retroactively showing us Captain Marvel. So this movie, even if I wasn't cynical about it, this movie would have to be so good, and Carol Danvers is going to have to be such a great character that you're going to care about and that you're going to want to see her save everybody else because she's coming so late to the party. So a high power level is actually a really difficult thing to handle. This is why I've never been a fan of Superman. I know that's controversial. A lot of people love Superman, but in my opinion, it's a harder character to write because he's so powerful. I'm not saying it can't be done right, because there's certainly writers for Superman who have made him an interesting character despite how powerful he is. But this is also a pitfall. This is the pitfall, I would say, the number one problem with Star Wars now. The problem with Star Wars is that Rey is just too wretched powerful. Rey can do anything. She's smarter than Luke. She's like perfectly adjusted to everything, and she's always right. It becomes really difficult to watch. It's annoying, right? You don't care about somebody that just has everything together. That doesn't make for an interesting story. And so, they say that she's going to be the most powerful. So this is why, a lot of people are a little bit worried about it. So I wanted to play you a couple clips from Kevin Feige on Captain Marvel.
We thought it was the right time to finally introduce Captain Marvel to the world. She's one of the most popular characters in our comics. She's one of the most powerful characters in the comics, and will be the most powerful character in the Marvel Cinematic.
All right, I just want to point something out. Saying one of the most powerful characters in the comic books doesn't really mean a lot, because they're superheroes, right? I mean, there's so many that are so powerful. They have, strengths and weaknesses. They may complement each other, but it's always, this is why people have so many debates, like, who would win, Iron Man or the Hulk? Who would win, Spider-Man or the Hulk? You can go around in circles, and answering that question has always been fun. And, there are comics that do answer those questions. But that's what makes it so fun, is that there's there is the potential for competition and who would beat the other one. So if you're definitively saying that Captain Marvel's the most powerful, boy, she better be a well-written character. Otherwise, this is going to get very, very boring. Another clip here from the same interview.
Stand there with literally almost everybody else from our universe, and there she was at the forefront, and it was a great foreshadowing, not just for how audiences are going to embrace Brie as this character, but also for how Captain Marvel is about to take the lead and be at the forefront of the entire cinematic universe. We've always had powerful female characters in our movies, we've had powerful female heroes in our movies, but having Captain Marvel as the title character for the first time feels like it's overdue, and feels like...
Why? Because they're retroactively realizing that she should have been in the movies before. I don't know. In the comics, it's, to me, she's always just been like, I just shrug her off, like, you just kind of gloss or over her. And according to comic book sales, a lot of people do that same exact thing. So this has been a problem. I think I missed, he said something else that was pretty crazy. Let's go back here.
This is not just about somebody who is incredibly powerful and can fly around and shoot photon blasts out of her arms. It's somebody who's very human, who's very vulnerable, and who has multiple dimensions. And
question, how is she very vulnerable? If she's the most powerful, how vulnerable? She's got to be extremely vulnerable. This takes me back to, let's see, X-Men, Phoenix. She had to have been, she was extremely unstable. She was very, very powerful, but also very, very unstable, and it was very hard for her to control those powers. That made sense. It's like having a nuclear bomb that you can use all the time, anytime you want, with no collateral damage. There's no downside to using that kind of power. So in my opinion, if Captain Marvel is that powerful, there has to be some kind of massive downside, some kind of trade-off. There's got to be something that makes it difficult, not just swoop in and save the day like they do in Star Wars.
And when we found out that Brie Larson might be interested in joining this world, she came in, we had a number of meetings, we pitched her this idea. She was a huge fan of the character in the comic. And one of the highlights of my career at Marvel was introducing her at Comic-Con and having her come out on stage and stand there with literally almost everybody else from our universe. And there she was at the forefront. And it was a great foreshadowing, not just for how audiences are going to embrace Brie as this character, but
how audiences are going to embrace Brie as this character. That hasn't happened. Maybe by some. I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot of people that are pretty unhappy with Brie, and that's of her own making. Like, why? Okay, so with Captain Marvel coming out so soon, all of this is hype. They're building hype. They want to let us know that ticket sales in China are up. They say Captain Marvel is producing some super powered ticket sales, and not just in the US, in China. The upcoming film is beating every Marvel Cinematic Universe movie except Avengers Infinity War in advanced ticket sales. And that's okay. I expect, I've always said this from the beginning, this movie's going to sell well. The thing that's going to happen is if this movie is bad, if it feels forced, if it becomes some kind of social justice lecture, people are going to be upset, and it won't be this movie that suffers. It'll be the next one. And that's actually, I don't know, that's hard to say. It might even be the one after that, because that's the next, that's Avengers Endgame, I believe, is the next one. So this is a sticky situation. It's, I really hope, honestly, I know a lot of people are hoping that this movie fails. I would rather have it do well, honestly, and do well without social justice politics. If it does have those politics and it's done ham-fisted like it always is, then there will be consequences. That's just the natural reaction. That's something that will always happen. So I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know who is the most powerful character in the cinematic universe, or in just comics, Marvel comics, we'll say. I'd like to know who you think's the most powerful. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. And don't forget, if you're interested in Downcast, politics free, just a great story, the mailing list is in the description below. I will talk to you next time.